the theme of my presentation is writing a charter on public space. And if you can see from the cartoon on the left, which we used as a poster at the Biennale, there's a bit of a play of words there. We wrote a charter on public space, but the person who's there writing this long document, thankfully the document was very short in the end, is actually writing on public space, that is on top of a swing in a park. Now, first, a much-deserved homage. Many of us know, we remember, that 41 years ago, Stockholm hosted the UN Conference on the Human Environment. And this conference is where it all started. The Environment Program first, and then UN Habitat, and then initiatives that followed, including the World Urban Forum and activities that we're engaged in now. Now, what the Charter is, three things, three messages I would like to give very briefly. It is the product of collective thinking and practice from the biennial of public space. I will say a couple of words on what the biennial is and aims at. Hopefully, the Charter can be a useful contribution to the declaration of public space process. So we see this Charter as an input in the process that is starting now, in fact, tomorrow, if I understand correctly. And certainly, regardless of the impact that the Charter will have on the process, which is not of paramount importance to us as such, the important thing is that we're beginning a good journey together. This is the important point. A couple of words on what INU is. I'm here to represent the National Planning Institute of Italy, which is a non-profit institution created in 1930 to coordinate studies, principles, and policies on urbanism and the built environment. And the second point is that 4 years ago, INU launched the Biennale dello Spazio Pubblico, Biennial on Public Space, to support the theory and practice of public space design and planning and involve administrations, professionals, researchers, and civil society in the promotion of better public spaces for all. This is the first Biennale, more than 1,000 participants, hosted 3 competitions and 1 international exhibit, which was about the Barcelona Prize on Urban Public Space, in addition to many workshops and seminars. Why the Charter? Because in the first session of the Biennale, the meeting recognized the need to provide a conceptual and normative framework to the presentation of experiences and good practices. So this is a point that has been echoed by Ralph Toots a moment ago as one of the issues that came up yesterday. And therefore, the Biennale decided to launch a broad participatory process to draft a charter of public space to be presented 2 years later at the second Biennale. And one important step in this process was the World Urban Forum, where the National Planning Institute of Italy, INU, made a presentation on the Biennale and on the Charter project, issued a few statements, starting with the attempt at defining public space, a statement, a first round of observations on why public spaces are important, a statement on the problems that all those engaged in improving public space are encountering, problems of a various nature, commercialization of urban sociality, decreasing public resources, apathy, etc. And we also presented a graph which was meant to convey the method that we wanted to adopt. In other words, all the activities leading into the final event of the Biennale would feed into the charter. That is, the lessons learned, the principles accumulated, the wisdom gathered from cities, from planners, from designers, from professionals, from administrators in the country and abroad, would serve as an input into the charter. And finally, in Naples, we issued this message, this invitation: we want you as partners, to the participants in the workshop and to the World Urban Forum at large. What came out of Naples, of course, the most important thing was that we established a solid working partnership with Habitat. And Habitat has been with us ever since. I'm not saying that Habitat is responsible for the words that we have in the chapter, but certainly the advice and support of Habitat accompanied us through the process and was a motive of strong encouragement to proceed in this process that, as you can imagine, was not simple. And in fact, this is what we did. We started with the first structure. Then we tried to collect feedback. Then we did an investigation on other declarations. Then we circulated a first draft to UN Habitat and all coordinators of Biennale events. There was an iteration of subsequent versions in which we tried to take into account the sensible criticisms that we received from many people and try to reconcile them with the overall spirit of the document. Finally, we produced a version that all the people who had contributed to the process were happy with, and this version was put on the website of the Biennale. And we collected additional comments, we incorporated them into the document, and we presented this version to the Biennale in a special workshop that we organized with the UN Habitat, in which we adopted the so-called Habitat method, or what we baptized as Habitat method. That is, making comments to a text on the screen, inserting the suggestions in real time, discussing them, and then, in the case of consensus, incorporating them into the document. This is how we got, in the end, to this document, which is going to be distributed in the course of the morning for your attention. The simple structure, the Charter has a very simple structure. It tries to say why public space is important. It tries to venture into a public space, into a definition of public space, which is exceedingly difficult, as you can teach me, but it's also exceedingly important. And then a description of the challenges that we're facing. And finally, and this is the core of the effort, the principles for the creation, maintenance, and enjoyment of public space. The focal points of this exercise, there will be more, of course, that will be added, are, in addition to my presence at INU, Laura Petrella from UN Habitat, and the address that we use for the process, Carta dello Spazio Pubblico. And finally, if any of you want to see the original text on web and print them on your own, all you have to do is to Google for the English version of the Charter, 4 words, Charta Biennale Spazio Pubblico. Thank you.